afternoon. No, it's still morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining the Maricopa County Branch NAACP. I want to thank you all for taking time to be with us today. I am Karen Hardin, elected president for the Maricopa County Branch NAACP. And just want to remind everyone, anytime you hear comments about what the NAACP is doing out in the community, make sure you specify which branch are we referring to, because there are about 10 mighty branches all over the state of Arizona. And so we want to be specific as to which branch a person is referring to or talking about. Once again, thank you for joining us. We are here because we know the danger that's facing the country. Those of us on the call right now, we are here because we understand the danger that is facing our country. We are here because we care about what is happening in this country, and we are here because we want to make an active stance against any type of voter suppression. We are here because we believe all votes should be counted. All votes should be counted, and none of them should be denied. None of us should be denied the right to vote, nor should we be denied the right to give water to someone who's in line. These are atrocious times. These are horrible, horrendous times. So thank you for being here on this call. We all witnessed how the country came together after the murder of George Floyd and moving into the general election. And we need that same type of momentum. We need that same type of momentum to stop these horrendous acts that are taking place right now to take away people's rights to vote and people's right to a drink of water. So with that, I want to turn the program over to the chair of our Political Action Committee, Dr. Camilla Westenberg. And like I said, thank her committee for all that they did in the general election. She can clarify my specifics here, but we had over 90 units and individuals working with our particular branch to make phone calls and using our VAN system, our phone bank system during the general election. And then we here in Maricopa, the Maricopa County branch, we connected with the NAACP in Georgia and helped out with phone calls in the Georgia runoff election. So thank you all for being here. And I will ask you to take all of your energy and get more people on board, because we have to stop these horrendous people from taking away people's rights to vote. Dr. Westenberg.
Thank you, Dr. Hardin. Very quickly, the first thing that I would like to do is acknowledge my committee, Ms. Alicia Jackson, Patrick Brown, Leon Boldridge, Dr. Judy Green, Teray Masters, Jacob Rayford, and Ramses Jah. We have a wonderful team working together as we are going to move forward, and some of them are in the house today. I ditto everything that Dr. Hardin said. I am incensed by what is happening. I am incensed by the fact that right now there is a movement to overturn any way that we vote, and that the legislators can decide which direction that we should go in the state of Arizona, and that is happening across the country. So the fight is on. We had in the past Countdown to 2020. Our initiative this year is Voting Never Gonna Give It Up. Never, never, never gonna give it up. And today, the focus is on Protect the Vote. I would like to introduce to you our speaker, Miss Emily Kirkland. I have been following some of the activities of her organization, and I must say they are powerful. Ms. Kirkland is the Executive Director of Progress Arizona, which serves as a communications and digital hub for Arizona Progressives. She was the organization's co-director until 2019, before joining Progress Arizona in 2017. She ran organizing and communications campaigns around clean energy and climate change in New England. Ms. Kirkland, welcome to the Maricopa County branch of the NAACP. I will ask that you first share a little bit about Progress Arizona, and then let us know where you all and what you've been doing, because I've sat in on some of your meetings and I've tapped in on some of your information, and I've sent some of it out in the community. So will you please sound off?
Hi, everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Westenberg, for that introduction. And I just want to say I'm really honored to be speaking here today and to be on this Zoom with this really powerful group and to hear a bit about all the work that you were doing in 2020 and the commitment that you are bringing into the work this year around protecting the vote. So thank you so much for having me here. I am the executive director of Progress Arizona. We are a statewide advocacy organization. We serve as a communications and digital hub. So basically what that means is that we help people connect with ways to take action and influence policymaking, especially at the Arizona State Legislature and also at the federal level through social media, through our email list. And we also do a lot of work to connect organizations and create coordinated strategic campaigns across organizations on important issues. And in this voting rights work, we are just one piece. Progress Arizona is just one organization that is part of a coalition of more than 20 state and national groups that have come together to fight these voter suppression bills. We fought a similar slate of bills in 2019 pretty successfully, again in 2020, and here we are again in 2021. So in talking about the work that has been happening so far to fight these bills at the state legislature, it's very much not just Progress Arizona, but a really broad effort that includes a number of different groups from Arizona groups like Lucha and Mi Familia Vota and Tomorrow We Vote and Our Voice, Our Vote Arizona, to also national groups like All Voting is Local, and just, a range of Stand Up America, a range of other national groups. So I would love to talk a little bit about just the landscape, what some of the bills are specifically and where they are in the legislative process, because there have been a lot of bills. And then would love if folks have any questions or comments or thoughts. And again, this is a broad coalition-wide effort, so would love to be able to plug folks in and make sure that there's opportunities to join the fight and help influence the way that we're doing things, because we need as many people as possible fighting back against these bills.
And Emily, I want to interject. Patrick is monitoring the questions, and so at the point that you're ready to take questions, if it's before the very end, let us know and he will give you the questions that are coming in the chat. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat.
Perfect. So let me just talk a little bit about where we're at in the fight in Arizona. This is, of course, part of a broader national fight, and we all have been seeing just what has been happening in Georgia and elsewhere. Here in Arizona, the context, of course, is that we have had many state legislators who refused to accept the results of the 2020 election, spread conspiracy theories and false information on social media and through the news, all the way November, December, all the way through the events at the Capitol in early January. And then as soon as the legislative session actually started, we saw more than 40 bills get dropped that would basically attempt to attack democracy and voting rights. These bills ranged from proposals to eliminate vote by mail entirely, bills that would restrict the ballot initiative process that's been used to pass Prop 208 and Prop 206 and so many important propositions, bills that would have literally given the state legislature the power to overturn voters' preferences in presidential elections and simply state, as the state legislature, this is who Arizona has selected for president. More than 40 bills, really, really, really scary stuff. And we are now at a point where some of those bills are clearly dead in terms of where they are in the legislative process, having not passed committee or not passed out of their chamber of origin, and others are continuing to move and move quickly. Some of the bills that this coalition of more than 20 groups is monitoring most closely are, and folks should feel free to ask questions as I go through these, SB 1485, which will remove more than 100,000 voters from the vote by mail list. So this is a bill where if you haven't voted by mail in a certain number of elections, and it's written in a slightly ambiguous way, but it seems to be 4 elections in a row, where if you don't vote by mail, then your name is taken off the vote by mail list and you won't get your ballot in the mail as you expect to. So we are calling that the vote by mail purge bill. It was originally introduced as SB 1069. That bill died on the Senate floor, and then it was reintroduced as SB 1485. That bill has passed the state Senate, has passed committee in the state House, and is awaiting a floor vote in the state House. If it passes the state House, it will go to Governor Ducey's desk, and initial indications are that he is open to signing it. So that's one bill that we're tracking really closely, SB 1485. SB 1713 is a bill that would impose ID requirements on voting by mail. So there's been a few versions of this. It's now in an amended version where it will require you to print your driver's license number on your vote by mail ballot. Not on the ballot itself, but in a piece of paper that goes on the envelope. If you don't have a driver's license, you'll have to print your voter registration number, which comes on a little card that the county recorder sends you after you register that nobody keeps or tracks. I certainly don't know mine. Almost nobody knows their voter registration number, and it can be really hard to look it up. So that's one is also very concerning and is moving quickly because it's amended. It is close to passing the state House, and then we'll have to go back to the state Senate. So that's another one that's moving, SB 1713. And then there's a new one they just introduced, SB 1106, that among other things would make it a felony to assist somebody who quote resides in another state in voting. So this seems to be aimed at people, for instance, like parents who their kids are going to college out of state, let's say, or living out of state, going to college out of state, but their official residence is still Arizona, as they're allowed to do if you're a student and they vote in Arizona. And this appears to be an effort to criminalize people who send along their kid's ballot when the kid is going to school out of state. It's an example of the kind of thing that this law is trying to prevent. So that one is also very concerning and is moving quickly. And then in addition to those bills, there's like 12 or 15 other bills that I won't even touch on here that are a little more technical, that have to do with things like how the election procedures manual is written, or the process by which county recorders can enter into legal agreements if they're sued for violating people's rights. And those bills are also, there's several concerning bills there that are moving quickly and that are a little more kind of in the weeds about the election process. A few final ones I want to touch on. I know this is a lot, so we'll definitely take questions at the end, and we have materials on this that I can send around if folks want to be able to look at them after. There's a set of bills that go after the ballot initiative process. So, reacting to Prop 208 and other progressive ballot initiatives that have passed in recent years, and that would make it much harder to put things on the ballot or to pass ballot initiatives. And then there's a bill criminalizing protesters. So HB 2309 would basically create a set of serious criminal charges that could be brought against people who are at a protest where somebody else breaks a window or otherwise commits property damage or injures somebody. And that we know that will be applied in a discriminatory way against Black and Latino protesters. We saw the prosecutions that the Maricopa County Attorney has been bringing in the wake of the George Floyd protests and all of the organizing that has had to happen to try to get those charges, those like really outrageous charges dropped. And this bill just opens the door to more things like that. So that's just to go through some of the bills. All of those bills that I mentioned are bills that are like really moving through the process, although there is hope that they can be stopped. All you need is one Republican vote in either chamber to stop these bills. So all of these are bills where there's active effort and some optimism that one Republican vote can be found. And with that, maybe I'll pause for a moment and just see what questions or comments, thoughts folks have on those bills that I just went through. And thank you so much for putting all this in the chat.
Yeah, currently, Emily, there are no questions.
I have a question. I'll ask it quicker than I can type it. Uh, let me see. Do we have a pretty good estimate of how many groups we have working to stop these voter suppression? And can we kind of quantify our chances of stopping this? You know, like, do we have like a 90% chance of killing all of these bills? And what practical things do we need to do to kill them? What are the immediate call to action to kill all of this stuff?
Yes, let me take a crack at that. So yeah, we have, the number keeps growing, but it's more than 25 state and national groups that are actively working to fight these bills right now. We have a call every week where we come together and talk about where the bills are at in the process. People can brainstorm, what do we need to do to stop them? So we'd love to have, a representative from this group on that call if there's someone who's available, or I can make sure to be giving updates as those calls happen. What are our chances of stopping them? It's a good question. And it feels like it depends on the day. There are days when we feel like, okay, no, we've got some no votes lined up. We're feeling really good. We're going to be able to stop these. And then a day later, it'll be like, oh no, just kidding. Our supposed no votes have flaked and these bills are moving. So it's hard to say. I think we have a really good chance of stopping at least most of these, but it's going to take a lot of continued organizing and pressure. Some of the things that have been happening already are phone banks into key districts to talk to voters, tell them about what's happening, and ask them to call their legislators. We have had, hundreds of calls that have gone into these legislators, but always need more. I need more of those conversations to be happening. We have done some canvassing around where legislators live in these key districts and having people put up, we have these I Heart Pebble for the permanent early voting list, the vote by mail list, I Heart Pebble signs that we've been putting up in key districts. We have some car magnets, we have some shirts. There has been work in the media to do op-eds, press releases, things like that. And then efforts just to make sure that folks are able to testify in committee about the effects that these bills would have. All of those things are needed. We need more of them, and more of kind of any kind of organizing that folks can think of as ways of putting pressure on some of these legislators. And I can talk about who those key legislators are if it's helpful.
Emily, I'd like to know that. And Emily, I've been on your most recent calls, and I knew, and I sent out to some of the 90 people with whom we have been working those bills that were coming up for Wednesday and Thursday. And I also received the talking points. And I don't know if Jason is there. There is another person that sends out the talking points. I'll have to look back and see that sent. And I may have spoken with you, Jason, but I received the talking points that were sent out just prior to Wednesday. And I then sent those talking points out to that cohort of individuals that I told them about the bills being on the table for Wednesday and Thursday if they could not get to it. But my understanding is that they limited the number of people that could testify to 2 or 3. And so I'd like to know about that. I'd like to know what could be done about that. I understand that there was a press conference also regarding that. And I'd like to know about that. And then what you are doing with businesses as it relates to trying to get them to join in the effort.
Yes. So on Wednesday and Thursday, there was a committee hearing, the House Government and Elections Committee hearing, where some of these bills were being heard. There was a big effort to have people sign up to testify. So thank you for pushing that out. Like, it's not easy to get people to sign up and be prepared and be on these calls in the middle of the day. And then usually the kind of standard procedure at the legislature is that if you're signed up to testify, you're able to testify. Sometimes they limit the amount of time till you only have a minute or 2 minutes, but you're supposed to be able to speak. And increasingly over the last few weeks, they have been prohibiting people from doing that, and will say, okay, we're only going to hear 2 people testify, let's say, on each side. And also, Republican committee chairs have been restricting people in what they can talk about. So saying, you're not allowed to touch on this or that topic. And we've actually seen this in past years as well, where a specific committee chairs will tell people, you're not allowed to talk about how these bills are racist, when they clearly are. I mean, they are designed to and are an attempt to block Black and Latino voters, Native American voters from voting. That's a big part of the intention. And committee chairs will say, you're not allowed to say that, and will cut people off if they try to talk about it. So it is just incredibly egregious. In the committee hearing on Wednesday, we also had Representative Athena Solomon, who was trying to read into the record the testimony that groups were blocked from sharing. And John Kavanaugh, the committee chair, repeatedly cut her off and at one point said, if you don't go ahead and vote, I'm going to vote for you. I'm going to record your vote as a no vote, when she had not yet even voted. So it's really horrifying behavior. We as a coalition had a press conference on Thursday morning, basically just to call out this pattern and to demand some accountability, and are going to be continuing to put stuff out to the media. We're working on a statement and just try to keep calling it out. Unfortunately, there's not, the only people who have any kind of like leverage over these committee chairs are the Republican leadership in the state House and state Senate, who have been just totally unwilling to do anything. But we do need to keep calling it out, because it's just outrageous. And it's so hard on people who sign up to testify, are ready to talk about these bills, and then are blocked from doing so when they've made a big effort to participate. So that's the update on those hearings. And then on the business community piece, we have had some big businesses that are speaking out, have been calling legislators, have been saying we oppose these bills. And we are working on a campaign that will launch Tuesday of this coming week to call out some of the businesses that have not been doing that, and really say, look, as businesses that have donated to some of these legislators, you have a responsibility to speak out against these bills and to stop donating to legislators who are attacking democracy. So there is a sign-on letter that we're working on and have been circulating, and would love a sign-on on. And then we'll kind of be following up from there.
So we have a few questions. So I see one hand up.
Yeah, Patrick, if y'all don't mind, I have a quick question. Thank you, Emily. For those who are looking to participate in the testimony aspect, to speak at these committees, is there a resource that could provide education on how to engage in that process, or to sign up for that process? For those who are accustomed to speaking at the Phoenix City Council, for instance, it's a little more streamlined, but as you had noted earlier, it's a little more complicated for requesting to speak at the Capitol. So is there anywhere we can go in order to educate ourselves on how to properly apply?
Yes, we have a testifying for the legislature 101 document. I'll put a link to that. It's a Google Doc in the chat, although I'm also happy to send it around as a Word doc if that is easier. But one sec, let me just do that. And yeah, it is a little bit complicated, especially now because it's all being done over Zoom. You have to first make this thing called a request to speak account. We do have a partner, Civic Engagement Beyond Voting, that will help people make those accounts, because you're supposed to go to the Capitol in person to sign up. And they have a volunteer who's been going and signing groups of people up, so you don't have to go all the way there just to do it. So you first have to make one of those accounts. You have to sign up to speak using that account, and then you separately have to email the committee chair. So it's kind of a pain, and you do have to get it all done at least 24 hours before the committee hearing. So the process is outlined in that document, and then I or others are certainly happy to help walk folks through the process too. Right now, we don't have any committee hearings coming up that we know of. For right now, they're going into a set of appropriations committee hearings that won't be touching on elections bills. But it's likely that there will be another set of hearings for some of these bills that have to go back through the process. So we'll definitely keep folks posted about that.
And I saw a hand raised, Benjamin Taylor.
No, my question was answered. Thanks, though.
Emily, I tend to be very basic in my thought processes about our country and our rights and our democracy. And this is something that perhaps the national NAACP will we'll see where we'll go. But the business of being in the game and then changing the rules of the game when you're in it strikes me as being considerably wrong. I mean, these individuals would not even teach their children to play the game that way. They would have something ethical about the process. I keep thinking that it should be so basic that when we look at the Constitution and the rights that we have to vote, and I think specifically about the one where they can literally overturn the vote. And during the election, they tried to do that when they went down to the Capitol from Mesa and knocked on the door and said, "We are the delegates, we are." And then, well, it seems that constitutionally, legally, there should be some way, and I've talked with my daughter about this, for one citizen to sue for stealing or trying to steal my one individual vote. It belongs to me. How can, we're nonpartisan, an individual dare say they're going to take my vote? To me, there is an illegality in the whole process of what I'm seeing happening across the country. And I don't think we are tapping into it at that very basic level. Although I do agree with the fight, I'm trying to jump into where you all are and taking that and taking the cohort that I have and fight it from that angle. But it just seems that there is some larger principle that we should be addressing that would say, this is wrong, it is illegal, and you can't do it. And I don't know the door to walk in to have that done. I'm just sounding off right now.
No, it's so true. It's so true. It's a great point. Both in terms of like the importance of communicating that as a broad overarching message, right? And not being too in the weeds on these bills, but like big picture, they are trying to steal elections and take away people's rights. So completely. And I do think that if any of these bills pass, there's going to be a big legal effort. I think that's one of the things that will come next. If any of them pass and get signed, we have a whole set of lawyers from different organizations that are in this coalition that will, I'm sure, be looking at legal options. So there's that as a tactic, but I think the broader overarching point is really important, that this is wrong. It's completely wrong. It's outrageous. It goes against every basic principle. And we need to be saying that and communicating it really clearly.
Democracy, right. But when you walk in and you can't even say it, what are the implications for the larger national bill? What is it? Is it House Bill, Senate Bill 1? What of the people's, yes.
Yeah, so H1S1, the For the People Act, or HR1S1, the For the People Act, is federal voting rights legislation that would basically counteract a lot of the bills that they're trying to push here in Arizona, as well as the bill that they just passed in Georgia, as well as sort of going beyond just counteracting them and affirmatively enshrining certain rights, doing things like automatically registering people across the country to vote when they are like, getting a driver's license or otherwise interacting with the government. Just a whole set of things to make it more, to take barriers down in the way of people who are trying to exercise their rights. That bill has passed the House and is now in the Senate. They are starting to have hearings on it in the US Senate. It almost certainly cannot pass. It cannot pass unless we can get past the obstacle of the filibuster. And Senator Sinema, as folks know, is one of the most ardent proponents of the filibuster, and so far has really said she is not going to vote to get rid of the filibuster, which basically means that it will be impossible to pass this voting rights law. And so there's a really important role for Arizona organizations to play in pushing Senator Sinema on that stance. That strategy is still somewhat coming together. There's going to start to be more calls, so many calls, but a call on Mondays at 2:00 for organizations interested in that fight. And happy to connect you there. I don't think there's, so far folks have been doing things like calls into Cinema's office, op-eds, press releases, media work, but there's room for all kinds of strategies there. I think that campaign is really still coming together.
I'd like to get the information about the calling for the two.
Great, I will send that to you.
Emily, with the bills that just passed in Georgia, how does that affect the midterm elections? And also, we had talked, you mentioned that there are lawyers standing by to start litigation on any of these bills that pass. But what's the time frame, and how does it affect any midterm elections that might be coming up? And how do we make people aware to be sure that they, we got to energize people to get moving now to understand there are some midterm elections that needs all the momentum that we had for the general election still needs to be there, right?
Totally. Yeah. To be honest, I'm not, I know that there are lawyers and legal organizations that are starting to look at suing in Georgia over the bill that just passed. I do not have all the latest information on that. Perhaps somebody else on this call does. But I know that there is an effort and a push, and totally. The midterms are really close, and there needs to be an effort to mobilize people around this is what's happening. This is what they're trying to do. Make sure that folks know their rights and the ways that things have changed, and that there is support to, make our voices heard anyway. So yeah, just totally agreed. And yeah, I don't know exactly what the timeline is in terms of suing in Georgia, but I know that there's an effort underway.
And what's the speculation on Cinema's motivation? Surely she understands. It's baffling, right? It seems like she would understand what she's doing, right? Any speculation on what her motive is for taking the stance that she has?
I have nothing except just to agree that it's baffling and frustrating. And deeply kind of, it bothers me. And I think should bother all of us that she is not understanding the situation here and the severity and the gravity of it, and is instead putting this old Senate rule that was used to protect Jim Crow for so many decades of the filibuster, putting that above the actual laws that we need. So I have no information about her motivation except to say that it is really frustrating and baffling, and she is talking a lot about bipartisanship, but doesn't seem to be really connecting to what is actually needed. I don't know, others on the call may also have thoughts or speculation on that, but it's really frustrating. And I just we have to keep pushing her.
Yeah, I just have a comment, not necessarily related to cinema, just piggybacking on something Dr. Westenberg said. The recent incident in Georgia where the legislator was arrested and charged with 2 felonies for simply knocking on the door, trying to get into the room where the governor was signing that horrible bill, and being charged with 2 felonies. To me, that rings also to, basic rights. And I want to know if anyone on the call, if you have any updated information related to that. I think that's a situation that we need to track across the country to see what's happening. And the way she was treated, in my mind, she has, some legitimate reasons for filing her own legal actions, the way she was treated. So if anyone has any additional information on that. And again, I encourage people to track that because we may see similar things here. You know, Georgia's kind of the template for this, for a lot of these things.
I'm thinking in terms of also, I know we have some young people here who are involved with, the times are very difficult. I mean, and they're hitting it in a variety of ways. If they feel that they can be voted out, but then if they pass a bill that they can overturn anything that you've done, it's counterproductive, you know. Plus one saying that you cannot assemble a protest and you can be arrested. It's amazing how many check things they're hitting at, because I was just thinking, sometimes it bothers me as I navigate in my car around, and I think, don't you all know what's happening here? Don't you know what's happening? We're losing our democracy. We almost lost it on the 6th, and here we are losing it again, and they're coming at us, and they're coming at us from a legal perspective. So even Jacob, if you were to say a group of us would go down and make a statement, because you have the control to do that, then it becomes problematic because of the laws that they are trying to pass. And I don't want to jeopardize you, but I know what power you have, okay, with what you can do. And then I listen to you. I'm wondering if there's some subtle way that we can put the word out that would make that population of lawmakers nervous, because we know. I mean, it's not going over our heads, but there seems to be a quietness as it's taking place. Within the community, we hear, I go to meetings in different organizations, we know it's happening, but I don't see any real energy to move against it. Now, is there some way that we can, I mean, some banners, if we saw banners going around the way we see flags going around here, saying don't take our vote, at least it would be a shout out to say we have our eye on you, we know what you're doing. If they come at me because of what we have here, protect our vote, then they have to go with those who have other flags flying. I'm saying that I just think there has to be some way that we make some noise. Okay, I think we have to make some noise. I think we are too silent right now. And I don't know how to make that noise so that, because right now it's just happening. It's just happening. And the other day, when they would only let 2 or 3 people in, it just happened. Other than I saw you all there in front of the Capitol, standing, social distancing and everything. I don't know how much play it got on the media. I don't know how much the larger community knew about that your voices were taken. So I just feel like we have to make some noise.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Westenberg. Excuse me. Fortunately enough, our communities, the younger demographics and stuff, they are aware of these attempts to undermine our democracy through legal actions and things of that nature, even down to muffling our ability to speak out through your 2309s. Really, personally, I feel that the issue was just the lack of media platforms finding this concerning or pertinent enough to, talk about throughout their normal news cycles. And far be it for me to create conspiracy theories, but usually there's a connection between the pathway of like media and disseminating information and the perception that something is being treated as important or not. So really, if they're not going to find ways to provide coverage through news and media, we can continue to use our word of mouth like we have been using for the past 10 months. So there's always a way.
Yeah, I'm gonna chime in here, and I want to piggyback on what Jacob's saying, because I think that's super important. Is that something that all of us on this call, even people who are sympathetic to this and want to fight these changes. We all have individual platforms now. When you factor in social media, email, your personal networks, things like that, there are ways to get the word out to the community. If the news, like, so if the local news media is not going to prioritize this as important to put out there are ways that we can get our voices out. And I know just a lot of the work that Progress Arizona has done is that really help individuals echo or share the information that's out there so that people can understand. Because I mean, the thing is, comes down to, in many cases, of having those conversations with folks that because if every individual on this phone call were to talk to just a minimum 5 people that they that would be concerned about this, imagine how that gets the word out, and how more people would contact their legislators, and step up. Because for some people, that some folks are just kind of in those, they're kind of in their silos of worrying about everything else and not realizing in the background their ability to vote is going to be taken away, or their ability to protest is going to be criminalized, those type of things. One other point, just because I know this came up earlier, in regards to the Georgia lawmaker, Representative Cannon, she has been released from jail. She is facing charges that, if convicted, could be 5 years in jail, but a release from her lawyer said that she's out, she's been released, and they plan to, of course, fight these charges, because according to her lawyer, there really doesn't seem to be any legal reason why that officer arrested her, much less why they charged her for what they did.
One of the things that I would like to say is also with the bills that were on the table Wednesday and Thursday. I sent out some very abbreviated information to groups. And then I went to the bills and I looked at them, and that's another thing that makes it very difficult. I said, no, I cannot send this. This is too much, because there's too much editing going on. There was just too much to ask. It just wasn't going to work. It was time consuming even for me, and modifications were being made. But the next day, when I got the talking points, it was very, very helpful. And I think that's what makes it insightful for people as to the reason why they're doing what they are doing. Is there any way to get the talking points earlier, so that when you send to them, okay, on this particular day, at this particular time, these are the bills that are going to be presented. And if they don't finish it on Wednesday, then Thursday has been designated too, that those talking points can be provided generically sooner, so that it would motivate them to really see what's happening.
Yeah, that was a situation. Basically, there was like an amendment to 1713, and then this new bill 1106, where they just dropped very soon before the actual committee hearing. We are fingers crossed. I mean, you never know with the process, but likely the bills are now kind of where they're going to be. Like, we don't anticipate a lot of additional amendments, although it can always happen. And so the talking points that we have should now be kind of the talking points going forward. So I'll make sure I'll resend those to you, just so you have them all in one place. But those should now be able to, you should be able to circulate those so that folks have plenty of time to read them over and think about them before, whether it is another committee hearing or a vote on the floor where there's a need to call legislators before the vote, or maybe there are other actions that happen where folks would just want to have the talking points in advance.
And are there any Republicans that you think are worthy of being approached? I mean, you should approach everyone. It's my understanding that you should approach everyone. But are there any that are really worthy of being approached?
Yeah. So we have multiple organizations who are part of this coalition, do have folks who are doing lobbying at the Capitol. And so they keep us as a coalition very updated day to day on where different lawmakers are at and who might be kind of swayable. And right now, some of the folks that we're looking at in particular would be in the state Senate, Paul Boyer from Legislative District 20, Pace from Legislative District 25. And then in the House, Representative Joel John, Legislative District 4, which is like the Yuma area. Michelle Udall, also from LD 25, which is, I don't remember exactly where, but somewhere in Maricopa County. So those are some just off the top of my head, but we do have a list that's being updated all the time within, I don't know if you've seen, or I'll send around again, like that spreadsheet where we're tracking the status of bills. We have a list of the legislators who we think are most swayable at any given moment.
So it would make sense to have designated callers from those legislative districts specifically, because they are the ones that it's going to impact. So really a team of voters from various legislative districts who are dedicated to making these calls need to be established.
Yes, absolutely. And that can be through just personal connections if you know people who live in these districts, or it could be doing a phone bank and setting up, to call into a list of voters and ask them to then call their representatives. And we are happy to help set that up in terms of like pulling the list and setting things up if that's helpful. Or you may have a list and stuff already that you want to work from.
Use the van system?
Yes, so we have been doing calls. Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
Just wanted to kind of add, with all the horrible bills related to voter suppression, there's a lot of criminal justice bills that are horrible as well. And a few months ago, I looked at about 8 of them and wrote up some opinions about those. But both areas are intermingled. So I don't want us to lose sight of that, because a lot of the momentum is at the same time. I was on a call last night, related to the 8 bills that we reviewed. And there's more. The African American CCC, they're monitoring a list, and mixed in the list are voter suppression bills as well as the criminal justice bills. So somehow, I'm not sure how to coordinate all that. I just wanted to share that.
So what my committee may need to do, Dr. Harden, is go back to the van system. If you can send those names to me and the district, we might need to go back to the van system and sort of work at it, because that's what we did for the presidential election and for Georgia, and sort of, yeah. That may be one precise way of doing it.
Okay, yes, I agree.
Yes, I will send those legislators and the districts, and let me know if there's any other info you need to set that up.
There's a question in the chat of how can we set up a phone bank, and the NAACP already has a phone bank, and so this is from Sophia. So Sophia, if Dr. Westenberg, I think your information will be at the end of the program, right?
Please, yes, because that's what I was talking about with the van system.
Correct. So there's Sophia and Valerie. If you will email Dr. Westenberg, then Valerie, we can make sure that you get any information that we receive as well as Sophia, if you're interested in joining the phone banking that our branch will be doing. Yeah. So we have
Patrick,
about,
put my email in the chat, please. Let me see.
Sophia and Valerie, I hope you got that information okay. You'll see the email. Be sure and send an email request to Dr. Westenberg so we can make sure you're in the loop, okay? We have about,
Thank you.
I just put my email in.
there it is. Okay. So if you email Dr. Westenberg, we can make sure that you get on our distribution list, Valerie, as well as get information.
And,
We have about,
the subject area, protect the vote. So
correct.
you'll put that in.
Okay, we have about 4 minutes left for our membership meeting, and we meet, this 11:30 meeting is a monthly meeting. So also those of you that maybe are not getting updates from the NAACP Maricopa County branch, Patrick, do you want them to put their emails in the chat so you can
Actually, we have a sign up form, so I just put that link in the chat. So if anybody is not getting our emails, is interested in getting on our email list, go ahead and just click that link. It'll redirect you to a form where you can sign yourself up to receive our emails. If you are on our email list and for some reason you're going like, well, I signed up or I had somebody sign me up and I'm not getting the emails, sometimes it does go into like your junk, your spam folder, depending on how your email system is set up. So you may have to, whitelist our email so that it goes straight into your inbox.
Good. Okay, great. All right, good. So once again, I want to thank everybody and thank you very much. And if each one of us does a little bit, we can conquer this monster. That's the only monster is all I can call them is monsters. Dr. Westenberg, I turn it over to you to close out. And also, just a reminder to look on our website because we are in the middle of our Community Awards program, which will be April the 30th. Our Community Awards program and Freedom Fund dinner is April the 30th. Our keynote speaker is Joe Neguse. For those of you that may not be familiar, Joe Neguse is the representative from Colorado who was one of the 3 members of the second impeachment team. So please go to our website. We would love for all of you to participate in that. Website is www.theWordMaricopa.naacp.org. So please join us. And also on the website, you will get updates about what our branch is doing. Okay, Dr. Westenberg, and thank you, Miss Emily. But also, I just want to thank everybody who's on the call because, as they say, we are all in this together.
Yeah. Dr. Harden, thank you very much. Emily, I thank you as well. I will be in touch with you many times, I'm sure. And I'm fired up, okay? I'm really, really fired up right now. And we have to get into an action mode. As I said, our initiative this year is voting, never gonna give it up. So I'm going straight to the core. I am very serious about that. This is a fight for our lives as far as I am concerned. And so we just have to get on it and do due diligence and engage in the voting suppression initiative. So thank you so very much. It's on. That's all I can say. It's on. We're gonna take care of this. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Have a great afternoon, everyone.